the minute somebody gets enough scale, they become a walled garden. I mean, look at Walmart and Vizio.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mike Shields. Welcome to Next Media. This is a special series in partnership with Epsilon. I've got Kate Sirkin. She's the EVP of Global Data Partnerships at Publicis Epsilon, and Scott McKinley. He's the CEO of TruthSet. Hi, Scott and Kate. How you both doing?
Hey, good. Thanks.
Yep,
So,
doing great.
Challenging question for you. We're in this moment of signal loss, yet brands have so much more data, it seems like, coming at them between their own first party, new currencies, the media company's own data. It just seems incredibly daunting to me, or from the outside. How should organizations approach this in your mind? Kate, let's start with you.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the principles are really clear, though, certainly from our perspective. It's really important to continue to know your current customers, who they are, what's their value to your current and future business, and how can you grow with them? What are the best opportunities to grow with new customers? And for that, you need both a combination of first, second, and third-party data, and then something to tie it all together with. So that you can see for now and the future with both accuracy and scale, an understanding of them, and particularly important today, how is that data related to privacy and compliance? Is all the data, safe for you to have and appropriately transparent with the consumers?
That's something to tie it together part seems like the trickiest part of that. Is that where the real big challenge lies?
Yeah, I think that's where the magic is. And that's where it's getting more challenging. Obviously, with the loss of some of the identity signals, it's really important to have a clear, transparent, scaled, and accurate identity graph of the US. So it's really the only way to do it.
All right. You said accurate. Scott, you're the person to ask about this, but are brands asking enough tough questions on the veracity of all this new data they've got? It all seems great, but if it's lousy to begin with, it's not going to give you what you want.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, back to the original question, I think you said signal loss. I would argue that most of that so-called signal was really noise. It really wasn't signal at all. If we consider signal to be a human being who has needs and kids and dogs and wallets.
Right.
So I kind of like wince when people say signal loss, because it's like really what's happening is the noise is really under privacy regulation and just a desire to do things better and compete with the walled gardens who have a lot of signal and not much noise.
Right. No loss going on there.
Yeah. I think that the industry is realizing we got to push the noise out and find the signal. And then we have to move the signal through the data supply chain in a way where it doesn't fall apart with every hop, skip, and jump. So it's,
right.
I think that's the situation. I think regarding, you mentioned accuracy. Yeah. I mean, why is it that the big tech companies are walking away with the lion's share of the media dollars? Because they deliver audiences that perform. How do they deliver audiences that perform? That they ask for identity, they ask for email authentication, and then they're able to stack attributes and behaviors and things on that identity longitudinally. Like duh. So I think the trick here is to achieve that same level of accuracy in a more open ecosystem by acknowledging where is high quality data coming from. How can I validate that it's accurate? And then how can I, to the point about collaboration and getting them together, how can I trust that when I move data sets together, they don't degrade so that at the end of the day, I'm 10% on target again.
Kate, what about that piecing together thing? That seems to be, where the mistakes happen is when you got more things getting moved around, like Scott was saying, and trying to stitch things together in the right way. Is that a pitfall that you're facing? And have you figured out a way to avoid some of that?
I think that both sides of that. I think there are pitfalls. I think when people don't truly understand what we mean by match rates, what we mean by identifiers, what we mean by reachable audiences on any of the platforms. So I think the way that we think about it at Epsilon is having the best quality and scale of identifiers that come in with client first party or any other data, making sure that we're working with the places that we send those audiences to, so they've got a similar understanding of who those individuals are and what's the value of them to the business. And then making sure when we get to the end on measurement that we're, throwing out the noise and really just focusing on the signal, who has bought the product and what's their value to the business in the future. So it's a combination of all those things.
And Scott, what about this idea? I wonder if you're going to ever people complain about the walled gardens, yet if they have the chance, they kind of emulate their practices as they get more data. Are we ever going to be able to break that? And is it something that, you're never going to get them to share everything you want, all these companies, but is that going to be an obstacle to get what brands need in this future ecosystem, or are there ways around that?
You mean in terms of the data being locked behind?
Yeah, like are you ever going to be able to marry up, reach and frequency, but cross a bunch of platforms, or just figure out performance about, when you're using these big guys and they're going to tell you only so much?
I mean, right? This is the moving target. I mean, everyone really, really wants to move to more outcomes and more, robust and comprehensive measurement in this crazy fragmented landscape we all play in. But that dynamic means that it's always a moving target. I mean, the minute somebody gets enough scale, they become a walled garden. I mean, look at Walmart and Vizio. So I think that's from a measurement perspective, it's always going to be a real challenge. And I think it actually hurts the movement towards more accurate data and better CPMs and more ROI, because I think some of the largest advertisers, sadly, have just retreated back to relying entirely on mixed models to determine annual allocations. And mixed models don't have a lot of sensitivity in them. And so they end up optimizing for efficiency. And, it's like the juice is not worth the squeeze. I can get better performance out of some little activation, but you know what? If I'm going to I can buy this tonnage, then I can squeeze some signal out of it and it rolls into the mixed model and says, keep doing that. I think it's so the difficulty around accurate measurement in a fragmented landscape is actually holding us back from valuing more precision and more accuracy and, just better all around performance with accuracy over just sheer reach.
Okay, what about that? There seems to be two paths maybe that the industry's taken. It's either going all in on closed loop attribution, loving retail media because it gives you everything you want, or saying we got to use models because we can't possibly, emulate that across the spectrum. Am I framing that right? And can we go too far one way or the other?
I think you can. And I think the other piece that you have to consider is real, true experimentation. I think that's really the only place where you can start to test and learn against hypotheses. I don't think you're ever going to get a clean, full view of the full ecosystem. But you can build test and learn experiments that help drive the most risky parts of your business together. We're always looking for more confidence in some of the innovation that we want to build, because channels are continuously evolving, but we have to have strong confidence in historical performance, because that's what's really going to grow the bottom line. So it's like the balance of all of the different tactics that we have today. Attribution, really deep attribution to see what some of those, to understand what the journey was and see if we can help add some of the new commerce opportunities or content and creator opportunities to it, as well as understanding what some of the big parts of our business are driving, with advanced television and some of the social channels where we're spending a ton of money. And if those don't work and we don't understand them, we won't be able to grow the business. So I think it's a balance.
Scott, on that note, where are the areas that we have the biggest problem? Where are the danger zones? Either where we don't fully understand the data the way we should, or there are potential areas of inaccuracy.
I mean, it's kind of across the board. I mean, and it's for a lot of different reasons. Like a company like Epsilon might have extremely accurate data in many, many attributes about people that are really valuable for advertisers. But once you start moving that data into the ID keys that require to be activated, like cookies and maids and IP addresses, and if you do it twice, if you move to one IDR service and you move to another ID service, I mean, you are already playing with fire in terms of the compound error that you're dealing with once the advertising hits the supposed person or not. So I think that's across the board. So there's inaccuracy in the assignment of demographic attributes and other attributes to identities. There's inaccuracy between two identity keys matching, and nobody has historically cared whether these matches were accurate or not. And so you have wide discrepancies from vendor to vendor on how likely they are to, for example, put the right person in the right house or put the right attribute against the right person. And the whole time you have a whole set of negative incentives, which are optimized for scale and match rate at the expense often of accuracy. So everybody's dumbing down what we can do because of these dynamics. And I think it really comes back to Cage point. Like, you got to test and learn and prove that more accurate data performs, that is worth it, right? Is it worth extra cost or extra whatever it might be? Does it perform better than than untargeted, basically, is what as an industry we have to prove.
Kate, you get the last word here. Is dumbing down maybe the way to go? Or do you think that's like that's a danger that we just want to make it simple because everything else is so dangerous or volatile?
And no, I don't think dumbing down is the answer. I think continued education in the industry about where does it matter. If I'm looking at measurement, it matters if I'm accurate. If I'm looking for driving scaled reach, I can live with a little bit of, modeled audiences that may or may not perform, and I can measure them in order to see if they do or they don't. I think a lot of the work that Scott's doing with TruthSet and the work that Epsilon's doing and SIM and the ANA really are asking the right questions now. And I think with a committed industry, we will, uncover more places to optimize and grow the business, over the next few years. I'm glad that it's coming out as a topic of conversation. So I think it's the right area to focus on.
All right. That's a hopeful note to end on. Kate, Scott, thanks so much for your time here. Great conversation.
Thanks, Mike.